I grew up in the forests of the Rocky Mountains of Montana. I spent a lot of time as a kid hiking in the woods and just observing the different things, some of which influenced my experiences early on as an artist, even in high school. And then by the time I came to Canada and started working as a tree planter, seeing the large-scale industry of things like forestry, mining, and petroleum development became a huge driving force for my art. My art is aiming to help increase the levels of awareness, understanding, but also just have a reflective space for people to be able to consider their own relationships to nature, as well as cultural relationships to natural processes and ecosystems. So as an artist, I want to be able to continue to create, explore, and use my imagination in a really playful and an intuitive way, and simultaneously be directly engaging with some of the most overwhelming issues of our time and our future. In my life, I have kind of a living contradiction. I value and love spending time out in nature, but I'm also intensely interested in things like computer graphics development, where I'm creating virtual worlds. Things like video game environments or kind of science fiction installations. And I think in the digital space, there's just endless potential for us to communicate our concerns about the future. But just so much of the art that I'm making is influenced by me spending time in nature and the environments I'm around, as well as talking to people within my community and talking to researchers, scientists, activists, and friends about the things that they're concerned with and about the things that are happening around our environment. Just within the last few years, it's been this big shift to scientific organizations turning to arts to communicate contemporary issues, and art organizations looking for collaborations with activists and scientific organizations to talk about contemporary issues as well. So it feels like our society is on this precipice of moving forward in the arts, making less art about art and more art about issues that are happening now and issues that are going to be happening in our future. This project is Acoustic Turbulence, which is a visualization of noise created by large vessels passing through the Salish Sea. Viewers can move the camera up and down and zoom in and out, as well as change different scenes to view different vessels. And when you pass below the water, you see an abstract visualization of the sound that's created by these vessels, as well as you hear the unfiltered noise that these ships create. This is what fish are having to communicate through. This is what orcas are having to hunt and use their echolocation for. And basically this noise all around the world from all the different large ships is contaminates every single ecosystem in the oceans with a large degree of background noise. These interdisciplinary practices are receiving a lot more interest from artists and scientists and educators because they are helping to kind of break down these binary divisions and these compartmentalization of different disciplines. Art can foster more of an emergent understanding rather than a top-down dissemination of knowledge that's often used for activism or scientific communications. An example of one of my works that connects a lot of different information is Resonant Disintegration, which is a digital media installation that has a 8-foot-long hollow metal sculpture of a baby killer whale suspended in a space with a projection surrounding it of regional climate data that shows climate variables such as precipitation and heat for the next 100 years for the West Coast. This installation also has a speaker inside of the sculpture that plays noise recordings of engine noise created from vessels such as oil tankers and cargo ships passing through to the ports of Vancouver. And inside of the sculpture is also a contact microphone creating a feedback loop within the sculpture, causing the sculpture to create its own sounds that are somewhat of these mournful vocalizations, similar to what orcas produce. The space for this installation is a sobering space for mourning the degradation of the Salish Sea and mourning the collapse of the southern resident whale population, specifically J-pod, which is one of the most well-known populations of orcas around Vancouver Island. So this project, Resonant Disintegration, was created over 3 months. That started with me creating a 3D model on a computer of a baby killer whale, then projecting that onto sheet metal, cutting it out, reforming it, welding it, angle grinding it down. And then once I had this perfect, shiny metal sculpture, I carried it on my shoulders into the water and into the ocean near where I live. To have this moment where I was sitting with the whale as this individual entity that I created and had somewhat of an emotional attachment for. I had this moment where I took it into the water and covered it with seawater, knowing that it was going to immediately start rusting it and tarnishing it. And when I pulled it out of the water, I saw over the next week it start to rust, and which is a reflection of the contaminants and the increase of heat and pollution in the environment. These moments, when I carried the sculpture out, were extremely vulnerable and extremely personal, and just forever tie that sculpture to this very specific place, but also make it so much more, make me so much more emotionally involved with it as an object, but also with the concept of the installation and the kind of message it's trying to put forward. I hope that when viewers engage with the works that I create, they're able to take their own experiences, their own thoughts, and their own concerns about the issues that I'm presenting, and just reflect on the works I've created in a way that helps them move forward to develop their own senses of how to engage with the future, and ultimately with a better sense of how we can engage as a society in collaborative ways to solve and deal with the issues that we're facing. I think there's parallels with how we're relating to nature on large scales to how we're relating with nature on individual levels and how we're relating to ourselves and each other ultimately as well.